Aww. Hi, baby. Are you a boy or a girl?
Funny you should ask, Sid. One of the first things they check when a new baby is born is what kind of body parts they have. They do that to determine a baby's sex. Most of the time, it's easy to determine, and sometimes it's more complicated.
This one has a penis. It's a boy. This one has a vulva. It's a girl. Congratulations.
Whoa, let's hit the brakes, people. The way your body looks on the outside is only part of the story.
What?
Stay with me, gang. This is important. Hi, little one. Your sex refers to your physical body parts, remember? But there is also something called gender, which is how you feel inside your body and who you know yourself to be. And your gender, how you feel on the inside, doesn't always match the sex you were called when you were born.
Okay.
Let's say you were born with a penis and you feel like a boy inside. In that case, your sex and your gender match.
Well, what if you were born with a penis and you know you're a girl inside, not a boy?
Then your sex and your gender don't match.
Wait, what does know you're a girl inside mean anyway? Does that mean you have to love pink things and princesses?
Nope. Sometimes people refer to things as girl things and boy things, but this is just how people sometimes classify things, usually to make it easier to sell stuff to kids and their parents.
Whoa. So as you guys can see, she said hit the brakes. I say turn the whole car around. Hello, it's Wednesday and it's time for Pop and Politics. We are talking about the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ. Let me introduce you to my co-hosts. We have Crystal and Shelly E. As I always say, join the conversation by leaving a comment on our YouTube or Facebook. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. Subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. You can also check us out on our website at www.popandpoliticslive.com for up-to-date information. Again, we are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, ladies, let's set it off.
Yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm going to get right into it. You guys saw that was a cartoon that is in the Wisconsin school district. So multiple public school districts in the state of Wisconsin officially added gender fluid ideology as part of their controversial human growth and development curriculum that earned heat from critics last year. While Wisconsin allows districts to tailor their own sex education programs and not all districts are the same, basic lessons in many districts include teaching gender role stereotypes to second graders. Third graders are urged to investigate their gender identity, and sixth graders are instructed to refer to girls as a person with a vulva. I want to go right into this. I want to get your thoughts. I mean, I know you're fired up, Crystal. I'll start with you tonight.
Oh my God. Like, I just kind of feel like I literally want to go to jail. Like, for my kid. Like, you guys, I want to fight these people because for them to feel like it's okay to push something so serious like gender ideology on your kid and having to deal with none of the consequences. As a parent, I'm so angry because when that child comes home and has to deal with that stuff, that's all on you. And then it's so like it's so fake and it's so phony because you are only what you do. Like every when I grew up, I don't know about you guys, you are what you do. Okay? If you can birth babies, you're a female. If you menstruate, you are a female. If you don't, you are a male. And that is, you can't change that. I don't care, no matter how hard you try. And you sane people out there, the people with good sense, okay? If somebody is walking in your house with their giraffe and they have them on a leash and they're telling you the giraffe is messing up your lights, and messing up your carpet and eating your cat and everything else, but they're telling you it's a dog, you will put them out of there. So we need to know that we have good sense, okay? And the giraffe is a giraffe and a dog is a dog, just like a man is a man and a woman is a woman.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get your thoughts on this, Shelley.
So when I saw this, I was livid, and a few reasons why. Number one, if those were my children in that class, I would pull them out. That's number one. They would not be in that class. These are fourth graders or at least elementary school that this is being shown to. And I'm going to say this. The part about the gender versus sex, this is taught to college students, right? You talk about the stereotypes. How do I know this? Because I used to teach this in liberal arts, in college level. There are some societal, differences or the stereotypes, like you said, of how these gender roles play out. But your sex is biology. You're born with a penis or a vagina. And what is also, you said the word disingenuous, I think.
Yeah.
Not only is it disingenuous, it's confusion. It's still confusion because they don't tell these students, not that they would understand, but they certainly don't tell these students that only about 1 to 2%, give or take, maybe different what stats you're looking at, of the population has gender dysphoria. So it's not even the majority, nowhere near the majority of young people who have it. And in the last 10 years or so, this idea of you're not what your body says you are has really, really done major harm, not just on young people in general, but particularly on girls. Our girls are more confused about their body. Now you add that to teenagers, particularly girls, who already go through puberty like boys do, but they have these ideas about their body. They're not sure. That's a normal stage of growth, but they add this confusion on top of the already normal pubescent development of young people. And what are you going to get when they become of age? You're going to have more confusion. We're going to have more of these young people feeding this medical beast to keep them medicated, not to mention castrated, and any other kind of surgical procedures that they don't want. This is nothing short of evil.
Child abuse.
Yes. And we think about it, I mean, this is going on in the classrooms.
Yep.
Where you think you can trust educators, teachers, administrators, but it's also going on in the pediatrician.
Yep.
So just this week, Dr. Alana Scherer, a pediatrician in Dublin, California, gave a presentation Sunday at the American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, National Conference exhibition and called for more gender-neutral terminology for body parts. Her proposals given during a workshop entitled Discussing Gender and Sexuality in the Primary Care Office included referring to vagina as any, I quote, front hole, or T-penis, and the clitoris as dick or dicklet.
What?
This is what they're telling these. This is what
we talked before a little bit about how groups are not necessarily bad or evil in themselves, but when you have group conformity in the American Academy of Pediatrics or pediatricians, just like the AMA and other groups, you have to understand what they are doing. They are turning our medical institutions upside down. Yeah. Now, there are some other institutions and groups who are pushing back, even professionals, whether they are physicians, psychiatrists, they're pushing back. But of course, they don't get the media that these large and more established groups get.
It's that AAP is like the major doctors, pediatric doctor's place.
Yeah, and
it's
I believe that they're getting a lot of pressure because of the social aspect of medicine. And a lot of times, I think even with COVID, like a lot of the doctors were having to go against what they knew and believed just to be able to survive out here. And honestly, like I feel really bad for the situation that we're in. And conservatives, I'm telling you, we have got to fight this beast. Yep. What I do, honestly, you guys, I tell my kids. Oh, yeah. I do. I tell my kids are very, very small. They're 5 and 7. And I literally look at them, and before somebody brainwash them, I tell them, Absolutely. I say, do you know that there are men, did you know that there are boys that think they're girls? And you know what my kids do? They laugh
Right. See,
their
but
behinds
you're making
off.
the point. One of the points that I've said before. Unfortunately, another unintended consequence, or maybe it's intended, of these gross, just degrading, confusing doctrines and ideology is that we have to tell our children much earlier about these things because they are going to be exposed to them because it's so proliferate in the community or in the society now. So now we have to tell our 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds that no, you are a boy, honey, and you are a girl because you have a vagina, and you're a boy because you have a penis.
Well, I tell them that people
I'm
that
saying, but now we have to prepare them to really stay at 5 and 7 to go against their teachers in classrooms with the truth.
Yes.
But before we didn't have to do that.
But look what's going on. I mean, we all you take your kid to the doctor's office for their annual checkup. If you have an older son or daughter, they start to say, "Mom or Dad, can you step out while I, get this?" So during this time, this is when they do this. So they have it all here: how to ask teens about sex. Basic guidelines, ask for consent, no assumptions, use gender neutral language. They also don't assume that LGBT identified youth are having sex or that they are only having sex with certain genders.
Right.
I mean, they have guidelines. This is how they are directing these medical providers, these pediatricians, how to talk to your children.
Well, let me give them a public service announcement, okay? Let me give you a PSA. If you have minor children and you take them to their appointments, things like that, like you're supposed to be, you can go into the room.
Yes.
You don't have to be excused if the doctor or the physician, whoever, asks you, because you know what? All you have to do is either prepare your child ahead of time or let your child know. No, they can say, no, I want my mom or dad there. Every patient has the right to choose his or her advocate to be in the room with them. So take that PSA to the bank.
Yeah.
Just because the doctors say mom or dad step out, all you have to do is say, okay, let me ask my child. And my child can say, no, I want mom or dad in.
Or let me take my child to another doctor. I wish a doctor would say, let me talk to the child.
Well, they will say
and
that.
not you.
They will say that. Because
And
that's
that
the
ain't the
law.
doctor I'm going to, period. You guys, we have to start saying, absolutely not. This is crazy. This is your child, and only you are stuck with the consequences. Remember that. If they are scarred for the rest of their lives, if they are hurting, if they can't have grandbabies for you, that is your life. You're stuck with it. No doctor, you can't call up the doctor and say, hey, you remember when you saw my child a few years ago? I want to. No, this is an emergency.
Yeah, it is. And lastly, I mean, you go back into the classrooms, they have this ongoing battle with these inappropriate books.
Right.
And the Biden administration is pushing these inappropriate books. They're pushing back against parental rights and parents that are trying to remove these inappropriate books from school libraries. Just here in Florida, actually, of all places, school board officials had to cut a father's microphone for reading a book called Lucky for fear that explicit passages would violate FCC laws and regulations. Since the school board meeting, this was at a school board meeting, would be televised. Late night television refused to air an ad featuring language from genderqueer. Again, this is another book that they are trying to put, or as currently in many public libraries and school libraries across the country.
We have many schools across the country, whatever, elementary, middle, high school, that can't even meet their basic reading, math, writing skills proficiency. But they want to push this crap to our young people. Please know, another public service message, you are always the parent. Okay?
Yes.
You are the parent. You actually pay the health insurance or whatever, and how you pay your doctor's bills. You are the parent. And if you have a physician, medical personnel telling you, well, no, I can't, you tell them, you know what? Here you go, right here. This is it. This is my child. I pay the bill. I'm actually paying, showing so you can get paid. But nevertheless, make sure that you are the parent, and that's how you act as the parent. Our children are being brainwashed from the time they step foot in the school door all the way up. They're being brainwashed. But one important bulwark against that is you, mom or dad.
Yeah, but
You
it's not
do
even-
the
E wins. Flawless victory. Fatality.
Yes.
That's yeah.
But it's not even just brainwashing. It's also a sense of shame. So we have this idea, especially for the books, these inappropriate books. You have people, organizations such as Moms for Liberty. I've been to many Moms for Liberty events. It's diverse. People, it's all over just moms, everyday moms, PTA moms across the country, just trying to maintain parental control over their kids. But people are being shamed when they say these books are inappropriate.
Yeah, and it's immorality is leaving. And honestly, conservatives have to decide which side that you're on. You can't say that you're okay with everybody just live and let live and do whatever, because if you are saying that, you are basically saying, okay, if everything is all good and everything is okay as long as it stays with you, then they are going to automatically think, well, if it's okay, I can share it with your kid.
Yeah.
And
I
so
always say
we
the buck
have to
stops at
choose.
children. The buck definitely stops at children, particularly, again, minors or whatever. But you're right. We have to push back, learn how to connect with the people that know how to do that, who are pushing back for good, for our children's sake. We have to push back. We can't just stay there. Oh, well, they're the teachers, and that's the government. I hear a lot of concern. That's the government. Damn the government. You are the government.
Yes.
It says we the people.
Absolutely. And then, and I mean, and it's really important what you were saying, KJ, is they were saying that the lines that these parents were reading in the book were inappropriate for adult ears.
Yeah.
Like the adults were clutching their pearls because they didn't want to hear it. And yet and still they put it for children to read. Like, are we not understanding how ludicrous it is? Like, y'all not mad enough. Like, serious, y'all not mad enough. Like, there should be a mass exodus, especially with every Christian believer, to take their kid out of these local schools, find homeschool groups, do whatever you got to do, but do not allow this. You have to push back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
But we will continue to follow this story. We have been on the front lines of watching and monitoring education, monitoring this gender ideology and sexualization of children. Go back and check our videos on our channel here. We've been talking about this for the last 2 years. So we will continue to keep this at the front of minds, because the children are our future, and they are trying to poison the well. So we'll definitely keep looking at this.
No, the well is poison. They want them to drink it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
Facts.
All right. So moving right along we're going to move on to the Israel-Hamas war. This is the next topic. I want you guys to take a look at this video. was footage of the terrible attacks on Israel that occurred on October 7th. That's actually new footage that has been recently released by the IDF. So those were first responder accounts of just coming on the scene and seeing the horrific attacks. So guys, we are joined now. We have much more people on the set. So we are joined by Andrew and Avniel, or Avni. So Andrew is the treasurer for the Maryland Republican Jewish Council. And then we have also, all the way 3 over, Avniel, or Avni, I'm sorry. He is a community activist here in Maryland. All right, thank you so much for joining us, guys. So I know we've spoken about this topic, the Israel-Hamas war, on recent programs, and a bunch of you guys asked for us to provide some different perspective, some more historical perspective on this conflict. So you guys asked, and we are delivering. So I want to start right into this. First, I want to start off about the Dave Chappelle this week. So things got heated during Dave Chappelle's comedy show last Thursday, as a Wall Street Journal report states that some audience members left Chappelle's show after he accused Israel of war crimes and suggested that pro-Palestinian members shouldn't be losing their jobs. Chappelle also launched into an emotional rant criticizing Israel for cutting off water, electricity, and fuel from the Gaza Strip, and accused the Jewish state of killing innocent civilians and committing war crimes. I want to start with you, Andrew, when we talk about that. Those are kind of things that we have seen, those accusations have been made just since the Hamas attack. What is your response to that? The war crimes, the cutting off the electricity and fuel?
Well, first off, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, in the days following the attack, and of course you played the video right before we started into this segment, and you saw just the blood everywhere. There was a dead dog. They shot someone's dog dead. Just people's belongings strewn everywhere. And that doesn't even scratch the surface of what happened. Scenes like that, and again, that barely scratched the surface, played out in kibbutz after kibbutz after kibbutz throughout southern Israel in the Gaza envelope area. So after that, Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, he declared a siege on Gaza. That means cut off everything. Electricity, fuel, water, everything. Shut down the fishing zone off the coast, shut down everything. And actually, as it turns out, he's been actually, I think, relenting to pressure from the Biden administration. That's just an aside. But as for the accusations of war crimes, Hamas uses women, children, and the elderly as human shields. That is a war crime and a crime against humanity, as defined by the articles of the Geneva Convention. They deliberately target civilians. They targeted civilians in this attack on October 7th, and also with their indiscriminate rocket fire into Israel, which they do from time to time. This is actually the second flare-up of violence between Israel and the terror groups in Gaza just this year alone. On Mother's Day weekend, Islamic Jihad started firing rockets indiscriminately at Israeli population centers. That was Operation Shield and Arrow. So the Israeli Air Force hit targets in Gaza to stop the rocket fire at central and southern Israel. They were firing rockets at Tel Aviv and also at the cities in the kibbutzim in southern Israel, including Baltimore's sister city. I should point out, Baltimore has a sister city partnership with the city of Ashkelon on the southern coast of Israel. The hospital in Ashkelon, Barzilai Medical Center, was hit 4 times by rockets. The world said nothing. One hospital in Gaza City gets hit by an errant Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket. The world lost its ever-flipping mind and accused Israel of that rocket attack. It was not an Israeli missile attack. It was an Islamic Jihad rocket that was fired, hit in a parking lot, did not hit the hospital, hit in the parking lot and only killed a few dozen people, not 500 from hitting the hospital. So I have a hard time taking these claims, these accusations seriously, because time and time again, I've been following this now for almost 25 years. So often the claims have no credibility because they can easily be proven false.
Okay. Same question to you, just to start out, Avni. What are your thoughts? You heard Dave Chappelle launched into an emotional rant criticizing Israel for cutting off the water, electricity, fuel in the Gaza Strip, also accusing Israel of war crimes. Do you agree with those sentiments?
Well, thank you for the question, KJ, and thank you for having me here. I have a unique perspective. I am half Jewish, full Jewish, technically, religiously, even though I'm not practicing because my mother is Jewish. My father is a non-Jewish Arab from Iraq. So I'm half Arab, I'm half Jewish. And my mom also gave me a sense, me and my sister, a sense of doing what's right, a good moral compass, as she would say, in the world. And she told me the other day, she's so proud of me and my sister that we have, connections to kind of, although we're not directly Palestinian, they're Arabs, so we have a view of both sides on this very long conflict, and that she gave us a moral compass, taught us to care about all the downtrodden and innocent people who are unfortunately the biggest victims of any type of war that's ever been carried out in mankind. So in regards to Chappelle's comments, let me first say that my biggest struggle with this, seeing both sides, is that I think the majority of people on both sides, I've seen it in the further right and in the further left, they're looking at it black and white. This situation, is being looked at as black and white, as in you have to choose a side. You have to are you for the Palestinians or are you for the Israelis? Life is gray. We don't live in a black and white world. It's gray. It's not a binary choice. That's not a sports game. This is real people's lives on both sides. It's not a sports game where you pick, oh yeah, I'm for the Cowboys or I'm for the Commanders, or if you want to still call them Redskins, you can, but whatever, you get the point. And so the focus needs to be on protecting the innocent civilians on both sides. Mm-hmm. It needs to be on, yes, dealing with Hamas. Israel has a right to defend itself. I unequivocally say that, but I also care about the suffering of the Palestinian people. Okay. And so Dave Chappelle has some points in that, with the cutting off the harsh siege tactics. It's a tactic that's been used throughout history in war. It was used in ancient times. You surround a city, you cut off everything. But we consider ourselves more moral than ancient times, right? Things that happened back then, we say, a lot of bad things happen in war, and we try to have more rules of war now and try to protect innocent civilians. So even my mom, who's a daughter of a Holocaust survivor, I'm the grandson of a Holocaust survivor. The Nazis killed his entire family besides 2 cousins. I asked him one, do you forgive the Germans for that? He said, yes, I do. Most of them weren't terrible people. They were led astray by a very bad man. And so my mom even said, and I agree with her, that Israel has to be careful about not creating more hate for itself morally, and maybe not using the harshest tactics of war that have always been used. A siege is effective in that it will save your troops, the troops that are coming in on the ground. It will save some casualties, will lower those casualties a bit, but it comes at a price of the civilian population in that city, in that area. And so he has a point about that, even as a grandson of a Holocaust survivor, my mom is a daughter of a Holocaust survivor, that it is a severe tactic that's used against civilians. It is an effective tactic in lowering your casualties a little bit when the IDF goes in as well. But in Israel's point of view, does it create more hate? So Israel needs to be very careful about not creating more hate. And I wish Chappelle would have also talked more about, he condemned Hamas, I believe, in it, but he didn't go. He went on more about Israel. Mm-hmm. And it seems each side, the extremes of each side, are like, or people on each side are more focusing on either the crimes of Israel or the crimes of the Hamas. And there's been mistakes on both sides. I'll say this: Israel's not trying to intentionally target civilians, and Hamas intentionally targets civilians.
And that's a huge difference that really, I think, is being ignored far too much.
Yeah.
And there is a difference in that, yeah.
So thank you guys for your responses. Thanks for being here. So either one of you can take this question, and I think it may be relevant to what you both said. But before I give you my question, Avniel, I was going to say, you talk about black and white, right? People are seeing this in black and white. Well, my response as an American would be, so does Hamas. They see it as destroying Israel. That's black and white for them.
That's literally in their charter.
That's for them, but that's one thing. Number two, you're correct that Israel does not intentionally go after civilians, but Hamas does. Number three, Hamas as a terrorist organization is not even bound to the Geneva Convention. So I don't know why we have that in our minds that, people need to, only one who's really honoring that is Israel, the moral of the two, the more moral. This is my question though. In its response to Hamas and other terrorist groups that surrounds Israel, I hear this idea of proportionality or a proportional response. What does that mean, and what does it look like?
That's a good question.
So I think that is a good question. And, unfortunately in war, there's no way to totally prevent civilian casualties, especially with as many, such a dense urban area that Gaza is. But proportionality is, it is true that it's always been unproportionate. This is the largest casualty toll in Israel. It was horrific what Hamas did. I think as a baseline, everyone needs to say Hamas is a terrible terrorist organization that wants to destroy Israel, and they want to create Islamic State. Hamas has just shown they become even more radicalized, and they are like an ISIS. Hamas is an enemy of the world. They don't care about their own civilians either. They want more Palestinian deaths so they can use that as propaganda in the information war and against Israel, which is why Israel needs to be more careful though in civilian deaths as well. It can't be totally avoided, and they do some good things, like they try to drop leaflets, they try to give some warnings,
phone calls, text messages.
Yeah, it's not much time, but they.
So do you think Israel should not respond or reduce their response? And I'm just, what does that look like?
They have to. Israel has a right to defend itself. Hamas needs to be taken out as the governing organization of Gaza. Hamas can't be left as the governing organization of Gaza. But, Biden talked to Israel about maybe not a full ground invasion. You do special forces incursions. We're giving more time to get the hostages back. Of course, Hamas is slowly releasing hostages now. They're buying for more time too, biting for more time. But every Palestinian Israel kills, not intentionally, but accidentally. The only thing where I would say they're targeting kind of civilian, but it's not like they're trying to weaken Hamas is the cutting off the food, water, gas. But it has, so they're not directly intentionally trying to target civilians, but their actions do have consequences for the civilians of Palestine. So hold on, one more point. If the more people they kill, civilians, that creates more terrorists in the future that will kill more Israelis. Violence begets violence. Like, we went into Afghanistan. Look, we took out Al-Qaeda. We took out Taliban. There was no plan for after. How do we make a better life there, a better government for people that wasn't corrupt so it could stand on its own and the Taliban wouldn't take over again? What comes next after Hamas is one of the biggest questions I have. Because Israel can take out Hamas. It's going to be bloody. It's going to cost hundreds of IDF soldiers' lives, unfortunately.
Probably thousands.
Maybe even thousands of casualties for sure. But they could take out Hamas. But what comes after? How do you prevent the next Hamas from rising up?
Get your response.
Now, Hamas is the governing authority in the Gaza Strip. They were elected by the people of Gaza in 2006. They cemented their power in 2007 in violent clashes with Fatah, which is the ruling party of the Palestinian Authority, led by Abu Mazen, Mahmoud Abbas.
Yep.
Hamas, as a result of those violent clashes, kicked Fatah out of Gaza. Fatah has absolutely zero presence in the Gaza Strip. So there was mention about Hamas being a terrorist organization, not being bound by the Geneva Convention. Yes, they are, because they are the governing authority of the Gaza Strip. And therefore, that is why they are committing war crimes by firing rockets indiscriminately at civilian population centers from civilian population centers and civilian infrastructures such as hospitals, schools, mosques, apartment buildings. Those are violations. Those are war crimes. Those are crimes against humanity, and they've been doing that for years.
I know. That's what I don't understand is a bunch of immoral people want to lecture you about how you should respond morally. Like, get out of here with that crap. But you know what? That's why I'm not a leader, because I'm telling you, there would have been some consequences and repercussions, period. I feel like the Jews that we are holding you guys to unreasonable standards.
The double standards are disgusting.
It's irritating. It literally is irritating. It's like a drug dealer talking to you about stay in school. Like, it's dude, like, you're not doing this, you know? And so I guess that's my question is like, why are we going back and forth with these irrational people? And why hasn't, like, some leaders, like, whether it be Jewish or maybe even people that are maybe in the U.S., the reality is that the Gaza Strip is 25 miles of land with 2.5 million people on it. Like, it is a humanity issue just there. That's a hood. That's a ghetto. I mean, I don't care.
And that's just Gaza City.
I don't care what you want to make of it. And it's these people's land. It's the hood, period. Okay? Why are we allowing that type of situations? Well, why are we not going in and saying, hey, I don't care who was here first, last, or second. This got to go because I'm not going to live in hostile territory. Why are we not doing this?
You cannot coexist with people who want to kill you. You cannot
Agreed.
negotiate with
So
people
get
who
them
want
out
to
of
kill
here.
you.
That's Hamas. That's not all the Palestinian people. And the Washington Institute in July did a polling of Palestinians in Gaza, actually, not even in the West Bank, where they're more moderate, more support for the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank. 50% of Palestinians in Gaza said they still believe in the two-state solution. And there was an interview with an Israeli guy in Israel. I forgot what part of Israel he's in. I'm not sure if it's Tel Aviv or someplace else, but he said, this is the fact. I'm thinking short term, yes, take out Hamas. They cannot be allowed to be the political governing body and a terrorist organization right on Israel's doorstep anymore. But what comes long term?
Let me just I just do have to comment on one thing you said. I saw that poll too, and that is true. But 80% of Palestinians agreed with all of the terrorist attacks on Israel. So it's kind of like they were like, okay, yeah, we want a two-state solution, but we still want to extinguish and genocide Israelis.
Immense pots, like she said, it's a ghetto.
Two states of what? There's no state. They should not be living there. And why are we allowing this as human beings? Everybody should literally, the leading bodies should get them out of there.
So I have a question to Omnia.
You have to improve people's lives.
No, you can't prove 2.5 million people.
Poverty in urban cities in America creates more crime.
So
poverty creates, if young men don't have jobs, and this is Hamas's fault too, because they spend all their money on weapons.
Exactly.
But it's also that they're enclosed in such area, there's no political solution. The world dropped the damn ball, and we haven't done anything to help find a peaceful solution since the 1990s and early 2000s. With former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was close to a two-state solution. A radical Israeli murdered him. A radical far-right Israeli activist murdered him. It's been extremists on both sides that have held back this peace process, and most of these people, Palestinian, Israeli civilians, just want to live in peace, just like most of the civilians in the U.S. And the world has failed them. The Arab states has failed this. The U.S. has failed. Hamas has failed. Far-right, or Israeli governments at times has failed, and the people have been hurt. They have to live together. They have to learn to live together. There has to be a peace. Both people have been on the land for thousands of years.
I have a
when in
question for
Jesus'
Andrew.
time, they were essentially the same ethnicity. It was just like, there was no Islam then. There was Judaism and Christianity was just burgeoning. Islam came before, but those
Yes.
I mean, Islam came after.
Afterwards.
Sorry,
Afterwards.
a few hundred years after.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
But
thank you.
what I'm saying is, if you look at the people who lived in Israel during Jesus' time, they were olive skinned. They actually looked like the Palestinians, right?
before we go
So
there, I wanna ask Andrew a
ethnically,
question.
they both. The Israeli guy, that's from Israel. His country was attacked. His friends were killed. He said, we have to learn to live together. We have to give them economic opportunity.
We
and
don't have to learn to
Wait a
live
minute.
together if you bombing me. It's time
Not
to go.
with Hamas, with the Palestinian civilians.
Abniel, let me ask Andrew a
Hamas
question.
needs to be destroyed, but the Palestinian civilians, and if there's no long-term peace, there's going to be death on both sides for generations to come. And shouldn't we care about that? Shouldn't we care about stopping the long-term conflict that's never been solved, that's killed people on both sides for over 70 years?
Okay, thank you. Andrew, I just want to make sure I understood what you said, okay? Because I said something incorrect, but I think you corrected me about Hamas. So the Hamas, you say they are bound to the Geneva Convention because they're governing body, but as a terrorist organization, they don't abide by it. So that's what
They certainly don't, because
Okay.
here's the important thing to understand about Hamas is they have a military wing and they have a political wing.
Okay.
The leader of their Politburo, his name is Ismail Haniyeh. He is currently lives in exile. I don't know when he was exiled out of Gaza. I don't know all the details about that, but he is actually currently living a life of luxury abroad, mostly in Qatar. He apparently, I just found out, also has a second home apparently in Turkey. But to your point, Avniel, the leaders of Hamas, they're living lives of luxury. They have these multi-million-dollar mansions in Europe and in the Middle East. Their children are driving luxury cars.
They're hypocrites.
They're living the high life, and meanwhile, they're still pleading poverty to the rest of the world.
Well,
Get out of
the
here.
Palestinian, the leader, of course, because they take all the money. They're a corrupt government.
Yes,
then why-
they take the
but
money
why-
and they
so
use it for
then why-
terrorism.
You said violence begets violence, right?
does beget
Number one, I
violence.
think that's gratuitous violence begets gratuitous violence. It's not addressing or does not respond to Israel, anyone defending themselves against being attacked.
Oh, yeah, they have a right to defend themselves,
Exactly.
100%.
So then that's not necessarily just violence begets violence. That's just a little catchy phrase.
Right.
So why you said there's been no solution. Why can't the solution just be Israel wipes Hamas off the map? Why can't that be
And Islamic
but what
Jihad.
What about all the other Palestinian people? Hamas isn't the 2.3
But wait a minute, the Arab countries are not allowing them to even come into their countries.
Right.
Let them leave.
Egypt's
So why
wrong
not-
too.
So why
We
not
can't
put
even
the
get
pressure
our
on-
American
So, but
citizens
why
out
is
for
that-
Egypt.
Why is
Egypt,
that
open up the
Israel's
border.
fault?
Open
Why
up
is
the
that
border,
Israel's
Egypt.
concern when Israel's citizens
Because-
were raped, ravaged,
That's
disemboweled,
going to keep
beheaded?
happening. That's going to keep happening. if there's no
But
long
why
action.
not?
Right.
Why not?
I'm
the
saying
other
step
Arab-
one. Step one.
But
You're
let
right
me
about
ask
step
you this.
one.
Let me
We
ask-
all agree on step one. Get rid of Hamas.
No,
What
get
happens
rid of
at-
the Gazan Strip.
But
That
look, what was happening under Trump? Now he was pushing peace.
No,
Well,
he
here-
wasn't.
here's-
He was
here's-
pushing-
let me
hold
tell
on.
you what's happening.
He was pushing
There
normalization.
was peace
and-
in the Middle East. He had peace. There's still they
No,
were
The
trying to
Abraham
do-
Accords.
Trump's administration,
Right.
Hamas was still firing rockets.
Well,
But-
Hamas.
Not as
they
often.
never stopped.
Not as often.
No, but this is he did not work. Trump really did not work on peace between the Palestinians and Israelis. What he worked on, and what we did a good job of, even though I don't like Trump, I'll say this: what he worked on was normalizing peace between Israel and the Gulf Arab states.
The Gulf nations,
Yes,
yes.
like
Right, so those are the
UAE,
Islamic
Bahrain,
states.
And
the
they were-
UAE.
The
And
Islamic states. There were peace
the
treaties
Persian-
put in
Right.
place.
The Abraham
because
Accords.
Iran, you have to understand, there's a Sunni-Shia civil war
Yeah, which is-
happening.
yeah.
Saudi Arabia is it's
Right.
kind of like how the Protestants and the Catholics used to beef. So now you have two branches of Islam beefing, Sunni and Shia. And Saudi Arabia is Sunni and Iran is Shia. So they're rivals.
Now you got to admit that in all of these peace accords and all of these, coming together, let's find a solution. You have to admit that every one of them has been broken by the terrorists and the Arab nations that surround Israel.
the peace
what
agreements,
else is
the
Israel to
ceasefires.
do?
Palestinian Authority and the Oslo Accords recognized Israel's right to exist, and they still recognize Israel's right to exist.
Yeah, so they can slaughter them.
No,
Mahmoud
Palestinian
Abbas
Authority
does not recognize Israel's right to exist. He has never.
The
He has spent
Palestinian,
his
look
whole
it up.
life.
Look at
he
the
has spent his whole life
The Palestinian
demonizing
Authority is
Israel.
not Hamas. They're more moderate than Hamas.
I get
They had
that.
you even said they had a civil war with Fatah
Yeah.
in Gaza. Palestinian Authority hates Hamas.
Netanyahu said
They still pay the salaries of
Exactly.
their terrorists.
No, they don't. They've
That's the
worked-
Martyrs Fund.
Look
It is
up. Look
absolutely
up.
true.
The Palestinian Authority has worked with Israeli security forces to go after Palestinian terrorists in the West Bank, which is why they're not one reason they're not that popular amongst Palestinians. They're also a corrupt government and embezzling money, and they haven't held elections in decades. But they do work with. They have a working relationship with the Israeli government and security.
And that's
Hamas-
fragile. And that's fragile at best.
Hamas, but there has to be someone to. War never ends with just war.
Trump was
war
the one who
war
was
ends with
pushing peace.
diplomacy.
Trump was doing
War-
Well, the Arab nations
So there
step
has
up.
to, who do you yeah, Arab nations need to step up.
Yeah.
They need Saudi Arabia, Egypt.
And
They
were
need
doing
to
that.
step
Saudi
up.
Arabia was doing that,
And
look
that's
at Iran,
and that's
they
why
just
Iran
sponsored Hezbollah.
right. That's why Iran had wanted Hamas to do this
Exactly.
attack. It's to
That's-
stop the normalization of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia, because that would be the worst thing for Iran. And Iran didn't want
So
that.
no matter what
so
they
Saudi,
do,
even though Saudi Arabia is now like,
They were this
we can't
close.
make
They were
peace.
this
didn't
close.
they were this close.
All right,
they
we
were
do
this close.
we do have to wrap this up, but I want I do have one last question. So, because I don't
Let
believe you.
her say something too. I think I was Let's let her get over it.
I mean,
I know. I don't believe that you've answered this, Andrew. Do you believe that there is a two-state solution? That it can be a two-state solution. If not, what needs to happen?
Not anymore. I believe this. I believe this. I'll use a hospital patient analogy. This patient, the two-state solution, was in intensive care on life support, and on October 7th, 2023, Hamas pulled the plug.
I agree.
It's dead.
I
It's
agree.
over.
I
Liberals,
agree.
give it up. It's
Yep.
over. Joe Biden is still pushing this. He's still putting out tweets about this, calling for a two-state solution. He's putting out tweets like 2-3 times a day.
It's
It is a
over.
pipe dream. Liberals, give it up.
It's
Stop
over.
it.
What does peace look like to you then? How do we stop the long-term bombs? Not
I think
after
it-
the Hamas
I
is
can
destroyed.
tell you how.
How do we prevent another terrorist group from rising up and doing the same thing?
Gaza was actually Israeli territory from 1967 up until 2005.
And it should
Israel captured the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt during the Six-Day War in 1967.
Correct.
As part of a peace agreement to end hostilities with Egypt, because remember, the Yom Kippur was in there too, in 1973. As part of that peace agreement, the Sinai Peninsula was returned to Egypt. That was all Egypt really wanted. They just wanted the Sinai Peninsula back.
As
Fine.
a buffer zone, yeah.
Yes. And then, so Gaza was Israeli territory, and there were Israeli communities in the Gaza Strip up until 2005. In 2005, then Prime Minister Ariel Sharon decided unilaterally to dismantle those communities, basically evacuate Jewish Israelis out of Gaza, take down the settlements, take out the military assets and infrastructure, and give it over to the Palestinians living in Gaza. So they had elections, 2006, which I mentioned before. That was when there were elections among the citizens
And
of
the civil
Gaza.
war with Fatah.
Hamas won that election.
I wanna
think
no,
that-
he
no
said-
two-state
no, he was
solution.
saying, so what do you think should be the
What's
solution?
the
I think Israel has to go back into Gaza. I think Israel has to take it over.
And
I don't know.
disperse.
I don't know what happens. I don't have a good answer for what to do.
Disperse them.
I don't have a good
Disperse
answer
them
to
where they go?
To the Arab nations.
who don't
Y'all hate-
want them. They
That's
don't.
like
They
saying
don't want
the
them.
Native
Don't want them,
Americans
but that's
have
where
to
they
leave
can
the
go.
U.S.
Did they, like I said, I
In
believe.
a one-state solution, the Palestinian people would still be there. Then you have to learn to live together in a one country.
No. What needs to happen is, and this is in my world, you guys, I recognize that I'm not the president, thank God.
Yeah,
All of y'all nations pick a choice. You gotta apply. Like, hey, where do you want to go? What skills do you have? Like, seriously, and disperse those 2.5 million people across the world. If you don't like it, too bad. Might means right. I'm bigger than you. I'm stronger than you. You have done nothing with the land that you've been there before, and so now you got to go.
Nations
That's what we
would
got
have
to
to
do.
accept them, though.
right,
You'd have
so
to find
let's
nations to
Drop
accept
them
them.
over there. Drop
Find
What do
out
you
what
wanna
their
say
skills
over
are.
there?
No, we all gotta agree.
them over
We
there.
all gotta
But
agree. Find out what their
nations
skills
would
are,
have to
and you
accept
got
them.
to go.
They like using
Egypt doesn't
parachutes.
wanna take them, Saudi
They like
Arabia.
using parachutes.
got
Let
to
them
go.
parachute
Yeah,
over the Arab
paragliders. That was a new
Yeah.
one.
Same
I mean-
question to you. Same question to you. Do you? I think you do believe in a two-state solution. How does that work?
I believe so. Prime Minister Ehud Barak, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who was the last prime minister with any serious peace talks with the PLO, which became the PA, the Palestinian Authority. Not Hamas, but they made so they had some some final agreements that Bill Clinton helped broker
At Camp David, yes.
That they broke
at Camp
again.
David. But Ehud Barak says he still believes in a two-state solution. It's the only long-term solution for a sustained peace that will prevent more Israelis from dying.
You can believe in anything
So,
you want.
he's-
But
Question.
My
Now,
daughter
question.
believes in
So
a tooth
there
fairy.
was-
It wasn't this a two-state though?
It was two states. Yes, it was. In 1948, when Britain made Israel, they gave Gaza and the West Bank and half of Jerusalem to the Palestinians.
But it didn't work.
And what happened was
they
during
broke
the
it every
wars,
time.
during both sides have broken stuff. There's illegal settlements in the West Bank against UN illegal Israeli settlements that Bibi Netanyahu, the president of Israel, he moved. That's why they were undefended by Gaza, because he moved the army to defend illegal settlements.
Because
in the
there's
West
been
Bank.
violence in the West Bank.
I know, but he took his eye off Gaza and Hamas. That wasn't very
2.5
smart.
million
But,
people.
but it's violence there.
During the wars,
Put
what
you
you
in
were
half.
saying, when you were saying when Arab countries invaded Israel and they fought back, they took.
That's how
land
they captured
in the
that
war.
territory.
Right, they captured more land. So there was a blueprint for a two-state solution that the
That the
British
Arabs
made.
and the terrorists broke.
No, and Israel has broke stuff too, though.
What did it
They,
break?
they've done the legal settlements.
have- Israel has
imagine you're
claim-
saying, like Native Americans have what's it called
The reservation.
reservations. Imagine if white Americans started making towns in their reservations and said, "This is our land now." Israel has broken that. Right.
Well, my solution-
Israel has broken that, so Israel has done things too. Now Hamas has done much worse
But
things,
it's
of course.
over.
But So
The
there
Native
need-
Americans had to get over.
what did Martin Luther King say? The wonderful Dr. King.
God bless
Oh yeah,
him.
He
he
said-
said that
Well,
Israel was. He said he believes in Zionism.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, no.
That Israel
Wait,
has a
hold
right
on,
to
hold on.
exist. He said as much.
In his famous speech, "I Have a Dream," he said, "I dream of a day where little black boys and little black girls can hold hands with little white girls. Hold on, with little white girls and little white boys and be brothers and sisters.
Okay,
I
well,
have
you
a
can
dream
be-
one
I
day
have a dream
where
you can be my
Palestinians
brother.
and Israelis, boys and girls, can hold hands together as brothers and sisters, and people stop dying
Well,
on both
guess what?
sides."
His dream is a nightmare because the Palestinians, the terrorists, certainly don't want to be living too
Right,
with
but
Israel.
we have to separate
So
Hamas
my
and the Palestinian
solution-
people.
My solution
Hamas
would
needs to be taken out,
All those
of
Arab
course.
countries
It's
that
not
don't
just
want
the
them.
Hamas, isn't it?
Exactly.
I mean, you
Not
see-
all the Palestinian people are
But they
radical,
all,
though. but-
even here, the ones that are
They still
supporting
brought-
the Palestinians, and
We-
and then they say
okay,
to the
there's
river,
some- there's
from
some-
the river
there's some-
to the sea.
That's
Which is a
wrong.
call for
That's
genocide.
wrong. No,
That- that is a call for genociding
supporting
of
Hamas,
Jews.
Those rallies that are supporting Hamas as freedom fighters and say from the river to the sea, that's anti-Jewish. That's
is
saying
anti-Semitic.
Hamas conquer all of Israel. That is wrong, and we
I
must
have a-
condemn
I
that.
have a-
Some of the
Don't
rallies are
they
peace
all
rallies.
wanna do
No.
that?
Yeah,
Some of the
yeah.
rallies
They
are just saying let's just
can't.
end the violence. Some of the rallies are just saying just end the violence.
You're not rich enough.
We have to separate that. So I've had fights. I'm a leftist. You know,
You're not rich
can you
enough.
tell?
You're
But
not strong enough. Your military's not big
I've
enough.
had debates
Sorry.
with leftists who are support the freedom fighters. Hamas is not freedom fighters. They are terrorists.
Well, let
Freedom
me
fighters
give you my
attack
solution.
military.
All right, we
They
have-
don't
Let me give you
attack.
my
Yeah,
solution.
go
Last
ahead, go
one.
ahead.
My
Last one.
solution, you said it, the Arab countries don't want the Palestinians. I say
The
this.
whole world has failed them.
Well,
Yeah,
since
sad.
they are hell bent on, they know how to paraglide their asses over these Arab countries and let them just drop into these countries unannounced, like they did with Israel.
At the music festival.
Yeah, let them put some parachutes on them and let them just paraglide over Jordan, Syria, Lebanon.
So they can massacre more civilians.
All right, well, we do have to end it there.
My prayers to all the civilians that have died and been hurt on both sides.
Yes,
So
and
we
I'll
do
say
need
this
to
too.
pray for everyone.
I'll say,
Apply
'cause
for a visa.
as Avniel said, he is on the left,
Israel
and
gets
we're
some
all on the
bulldozers.
right. One thing I do want to say is we need to stop the anti-Semitism on both sides, the left and the right. And so I'll end it with that. We don't condone anti-Semitism. We don't condone it at all. But I have seen it on the right, and I have seen it on the left.
Yeah,
So it
and
needs to be-
hate against Muslims too. There was a 6-year-old Muslim boy that was murdered in Illinois by a crazy landlord.
But that
So
wasn't because he was Muslim.
Yeah, it was.
It was disgusting
It's a
and
terrible
uncalled
old
for.
man. It's like some old man. He looks. I don't know what's wrong with him, but
Oh,
yeah.
I thought he was deranged.
It was disgusting, and the hate on both sides needs to stop. I've seen terrible hate against Jews from the far leftists.
It's one thing
I've
to
seen
not
hate
like
against
somebody-
Muslims from far rightists.
It's one
Stop
thing
the
to
hate,
not
people.
like
Stop
somebody,
the hate.
and there's
Stop
another
it.
thing to sit next to them and blow them up. It's a very different thing. Sorry.
Big time. Boom.
All right, there we have it. So we're going to move on to our
Peace,
next topic, which is George Floyd.
Lord. Speaking of-
Thank you guys so much for coming on. We got to have you back again.
Yes,
Again, this is
Thank you for having
Andrew.
us.
He is the treasurer of the Maryland Republican Jewish Council. Where can people find you?
We are on Facebook and Instagram, and I post videos every night called the Daily Kvetch, and I post those videos every night, usually in the evenings. I also post videos on Friday nights before Shabbat, Saturday nights after Shabbat ends, and the only days I take off are for major Jewish holidays.
Thank you.
All right. And then Avniel, thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining
KJ.
us.
Thank you, ladies.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
would you like to, where can people find you? Or
So, if you want to continue the discussion with me in the debate, I'm running my own open political discussion group on Facebook called All About DMV Politics. So come All About DMV Politics. Come check us out. It's open to everyone. I don't care your political affiliation. As long as you can have respectful debate like we did here today, then I want you to come and join my group, and we can continue this discussion as well as many more. We do national politics and local politics on the Facebook group.
Thanks for coming.
Yep. Thanks so much for having us.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So I want you to take a look at this next clip, and then we're going to talk about it. This is regarding George Floyd.
Speaking of ghetto.
What do we do with that knowledge? What do we do with the knowledge that George Floyd was not actually strangled to death by a cop?
We have to acknowledge the people that gave it to us and why. See, George Floyd is the Democratic Party's prototypical black man. These are the black men they are trying to create. So George Floyd has to be elevated. He has to be celebrated. He's perfect to them. He was poor. He was uneducated. He was a drug addict. He didn't have a job. He was down there begging and crying and asking the white people to not kill him. To a white Democrat, this is the perfect black man.
All right. So as you guys can see, we have moved on to the George Floyd comment. So that was an episode of Tucker Carlson's show. So a little over a week into the trial, chief medical examiner in Minneapolis, a man named Andrew Baker, was called by the state to make the claim that Derek Chauvin had committed a homicide by placing his knee on Floyd's neck for several minutes. And that's exactly what Andrew Baker did on direct examination. As you can see, actually new evidence has come about this week. So, and that's what Tucker Carlson was talking about there. So this is over recently. Baker acknowledged that Floyd had severely enlarged heart and that the autopsy showed no physical signs of neck injury or strangulation. So I want to talk about this. This is new kind of evidence, not new evidence, but it was not really highlighted during the trial. Now they're saying that he knew that this was going on, but under pressure from all of the forces surrounding the case, he did not really talk about it. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Shelley. Start off with you on the new information.
So the information comes out from, I think, one of the prosecutors that left the office, if I'm not mistaken, and she was fired or resigned, and she's suing her former boss. But let me say this, I'm going to separate the two. As far as Derek Chauvin, I have always been of the mindset that he contributed to George Floyd's death. When you watch the trial, particularly the medical portion of the trial, the back and forth, what do you call it, the cross-examinations, right? And I don't want to get too technical here, but in strangulation, most of the lay public thinks erroneously that when someone is strangled that there's always a visible injury. It's not. There's not. Before you pass, if you're strangled long enough, before you get to that time limit, which is actually much shorter also than people believe, you are without oxygen, your brain. Your brain is the largest organ in your body that sucks up a lot of oxygen and needs a lot of oxygen. And to be without oxygen any time is dangerous to your brain, number one. And a few seconds, it takes about maybe 14 to 16 seconds, you can pass out from asphyxia and you can die. That's why I say contributed to his death. None of those, at least the medical people that I saw during the trial, each of them basically said that there was no evidence that the fentanyl was high enough in his body to cause him to pass out. He did not. His respirations, all these other medical points that were made, I say contributed. I don't think Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. I would say that it was involuntary manslaughter. Whether or not his time in jail should be reduced, if it's on a murder charge, I would say yes. So there are some contributions to what he did.
Okay, I get actually, and what I meant to say earlier. So what has happened now is, again, Andrew Baker is the the medical examiner who testified in the case. As reported by Alpha News last week and discussed on Tucker Carlson's show, Sweezy, who is he's a Minneapolis prosecutor, Amy Sweezy, just claimed in a deposition that Baker privately acknowledged that there were no medical indications of asphyxia or strangulation in Floyd's death. So she is now suing, I believe. She's
suing her former prosecutor, right, her boss, I forget his name. But
that they somehow kind of hid or left out this information, and he knew that this was not part of the case.
Yeah, he didn't. It was actually brought up in the trial that he did not say that George Floyd was strangled at first, and then he went back and said that it was strangulation under the pressure of all y'all folks. So none of this is new. None of this information. If anything, we need to understand the effects of groupthink. This human being, this disgusting human being, and I am so upset that we even care what happens to George Floyd. George Floyd is the worst of our community. No one wants George Floyd over for dinner. Right. No one wants him over to their house. George Floyd can't date your daughter. He can't even hang out with your son. Why are we discussing this human being who was on fentanyl when he died? 3 chambers in his heart were blocked 50% or more from long-term drug use and from all kinds of lifestyles stuff that he was doing. And so the fact that we put an officer, and this really disturbs me because I don't care what color he was. In the trial, it said that he was called to the scene to control this fool that didn't get into the car that weighed twice as much as he did. They called him, and then they said, hey, no, we got it under control. We're good. So he left. If he was an overzealous person, like everybody thought he was, he would have just came there anyway. He left. Then they called him back, and they said, no, we really need you. This dude is out of control. And so everything about this trial, I'm just so angry, and I'm really not interested in what y'all have to say about it right now. And when I say y'all, I mean y'all people who put this man in jail. And honestly, it needs to be taken over by a special counsel or whoever to review this case because y'all are just crazy. Especially Black America, okay? Let me tell you something. Everything about this man, including the fact that he dated a white woman, everything about him y'all would despise. And yet and still, I can't get you to come to the school board meeting to talk about your kid's school. I can't get you to come to anything to deal with your school, but you marching out there for this damn fool. I'm so pissed off I don't even know what to do. Sorry. That's all I have to say about Mr. Fentanyl. The F stands for fentanyl.
The drug addict.
Yeah. Floyd, it don't stand for Mr. Fentanyl.
Yeah.
Mr. F.
Okay, so, you make some very good points. One point that you did make is how the left, the Democrat Party, Black people have really put this man up on a pedestal, and it's not.
He doesn't need to be. He should not be.
He should not be.
Again, on this part, I agree with you all. Again, the black community, we seem to, they talk about crabs in the barrel. No, I'm going to stop using that. We're not necessarily crabs in the barrel. We are at the bottom of the barrel. And so we just want everybody to stay down at the bottom of the barrel with us, with foolishness. This man, amongst others, again, we mentioned some other people, Michael Brown, they have murals painted and everything. Our children can't read or write and do math. No one shows up at the school board like Crystal was saying, but yet we want to elevate these people who are basically plagues on our communities. They're plagues. They suck the life out of the community. Again, whether or not you think Derek Chauvin is guilty of murder or not, that's a separate issue. And I do want to say this, Crystal, one of the reasons why he was called back or the police were there, medically speaking, is that any medical person will tell you this. Anytime a patient or whomever, a victim, whatever, says, I can't breathe, that is an automatic medical emergency. It deserves and it has to have medical attention. So that's the part that I guess they're reevaluating now, whether or not, again, because of the position that Floyd was in, he was prone. When you can't breathe, that does contribute. This is why I'm careful to say contribute to his death, not necessarily cause it or certainly not murder.
I will concede that if Derek Chauvin had just moved his knee off the fool's neck, then maybe this would have just ended. Sometimes I'm like, please just move. I watch the videos like, please, let's just see if we can see him reposition his body or something.
And the doctors in the trial said, the doctor said that in the trial.
I mean, because honest to God, I really believe with all my heart, he didn't think he was hurting him.
I said involuntary.
He didn't think he was hurting him at all. And because he wasn't, if I'm kneeling on somebody, I can tell if I'm putting pressure or not. And so, I mean, honestly, like, I just feel like I don't care if his knee was on his neck, on his head, on his mouth, or his back. I don't care what happens to Mr. F. Fentanyl. I really don't care. Because he got buried in a gold casket. Now, mind you, I'm a good mom. I'm a Christian. I do
and yours
everything
will not be
I know.
gold.
I won't have a gold casket.
Yeah. I mean, that is true. Now, one thing I do want to say is, for one, Baker admitted just days after Floyd's death, he told prosecutors that he did have a lethal level of fentanyl in his system. And under normal circumstances, had he been left alone, even had he had that same amount of fentanyl in his system and he was alone and he died, they would have said it was an overdose.
Yeah, right.
But again, this is the medical part that they're reevaluating. Even if the levels that he had did not cause the death, it was these extra circumstances that added to all of these events, right? This cascade of events that, again, contributed. So this is what they are reevaluating. But no way, shape, or form do I believe or even want or happy about George Floyd being elevated to a martyr status in our community. None of us, like you said, Chris, none of us would want our children to follow his lead.
No.
Why the hell is it
free Chauvin?
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about.
Hashtag
because
free Chauvin.
What the gentleman said on the clip that we just recently played, he talks about that. He talks about the left and the Democrat Party continuously putting up these types of figures in our community as somewhat like heroes and people who should be, what do you call it? Just put up on pedestals.
Right.
It's very odd, but we know why they do this. And they continue to do this because they know these are the types of people that need them.
Exactly.
They need the government for assistance. Many of these people that they put up on these pedestals are getting disability checks or getting social programs. And this is why they want to take these types of people and lift them up in our communities, because these are the people that continue to keep them in office, continue to vote for them, continue to keep their pockets lined. We just saw Joe Biden has gotten rich just from being a somewhat public servant. And this is what we have.
They are pawns.
They're so stupid because we are the people that keep them employed. You think George Floyd was a good tax-paying citizen?
No.
We pay the taxes that supply and support this mess. They are useful pawns. We talked about the immigrants coming over the border a couple of weeks ago, and basically they are replacing, particularly I think, black men. But the same thing. Even in the Democrat communities, these are the people. The Democrats love to parade. You know, they're the needy. They need all these wraparound services. I say put them in bubble wrap. They got so much damn wraparound stuff. Where's the saran wrap that they need? Yet they are nothing. They are parasites on our community. None of you would have your children, your nieces, your nephews. You wouldn't even let George Floyd walk them to the corner store. You wouldn't.
Well,
But
I can't.
To the community, he was a violent person. He beat on his girlfriend. I think she was pregnant at the time.
Disgusting human being.
He was.
And it's just a fact. I don't care if he's black, white, and green. It's the fact.
Yeah. So,
but I bet you in all these Democrat cities where you have these George Floyds who are elevated by the Democrat Party, I bet you these people probably could not give you a victim that was murdered and abused by the George Floyd types. They wouldn't have murals of these people, the innocent people, saying that they lost their lives to the same crap that they keep pushing, whether it's low education, drugs, and all of these, again, wraparound services. They wouldn't have the people that are doing right, doing good, trying to do well, and maybe they were snuffed out by the George Floyd types. They wouldn't have any statues of them. No, they wouldn't do that. But we keep buying this bullshit that the Democrat Party cares about the people, and the Democrat Party, you know, they take care of us. Well, us is still living like we slaves, because you keep begging these people, well, save us, save us. You're not saved. You're not saved. You're crazy.
Yeah, and I just, one last thought on this. You know, we had recently Kamala Harris, she had a program or some type of award ceremony where they were acknowledging 50 years of hip hop. Now, full disclosure, I am a huge hip hop head, you know, but not this new hip hop. But
it's a genre.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it's just, I will acknowledge old school hip hop, real hip hop, where people were actually, thinking the lyrics were good and things like that. But this new stuff, now they decide to pay homage to it, and this is adding to the killing of our community. So I don't understand, but again, it's popular. It looks good to people who believe in Black girls vote, that kind of stuff, and they continue
silent bigotry of low expectations.
Yeah,
we should be offended.
Right,
we should be offended.
So we will continue to monitor this. I think a lot's going to come out of this case. I mean, last thoughts, ladies. Do you think Chauvin will be released?
Chauvin.
Chauvin.
Yeah.
I should have never went to jail.
I do believe his sentence should be reevaluated. I really do. I don't think he should have been prosecuted for murder in the first place. So I definitely think his sentence should be reevaluated.
All right. Well, we will continue to follow that story. All right. So we are moving right along to our counter view topic.
Uh-oh.
It's hard that you're cute and submissive. It's hard. I am a man repellent. It's hard because all I do is go to gay events and drag shows and anything to make a buck, save a buck. Anything to make a buck. It's hard.
All right. So this week this is our counter view segment where we respond to something outrageous from The View. Take a look at this clip. This is them this week.
Happening very, very soon. Yeah. Joy and I were texting each other yesterday, and you texted me that Sidney Powell had pled guilty, and I said, she's singing like a canary, because they all do. Yeah. I've had these conversations so many times when I was a prosecutor. You go into the office, you have a multi-conspiracy, multi-defendants, and you say, you can be the target, or you can testify against the target. I'm going to give you a little time to speak with your lawyer, and then I'll come back. 9 times out of 10, they start singing the same song. Yeah. I didn't have much to do with it. All I did was this and that. But that person, Trump, he did such and such. So, Alyssa, how much will this hurt Trump?
All right. So that was The View. They're giddy over Sidney Powell she pled guilty. I think it's a misdemeanor against Trump, and so it looks like she may testify in the trial against Trump, or should I say for the prosecution. So these ladies are giddy. What are your thoughts on this, Shelley?
I am really, really, I guess I would say saddened, because Sidney Powell has been, or was, this excellent, credible, not just an attorney, but she was an appellate level attorney. So she had a lot of credibility for years. And I just see her having maybe destroyed her career, or at least her credibility. She didn't lose her license because of the misdemeanors. But I do want to say this. In as much as I think this testimony, and I think Jenna Ellis was also took some pleas or whatever.
Right.
I do think that some of their testimony is going to damage Trump legally, in that sense, some of whatever they're going to say. However, on the other side, I do know that prosecutors have innumerable access to funds. They have many funds to go after and put people in the position where they, what are you going to do? Plead to a felony or plead to a misdemeanor? That's kind of almost an easy choice for most of us, because if you can stay out of prison, then yes, you would do that. Again, I don't know what she's going to say, what Jenna Ellis may say, but I do know that prosecutors are not necessarily the good guys. They might look like it, but they're not necessarily good guys. They have tactics that they use to, I'm going to say, force or coerce people to get what they want to.
Okay. I'm gonna get your thoughts on this, Crystal. Again, they're talking about Sidney Powell. She's pled guilty, and they're expecting her to testify against Trump. What are your thoughts?
I take this very, very, very personal. I am the victim of an overzealous prosecutor, and I think that this is something that maybe conservatives are not as versed on, or a little naive. I mean, if you've never had a situation where you've found yourself being prosecuted, then maybe this is far-fetched from you. But I had a prosecutor who accused me, mind you, I've never been in trouble before my life, ever, accused me of a felony in order to get me to plead to a misdemeanor. And so we need to be very, very careful when we're looking at this Sidney Powell case, because I think that it's predatory, and for Sonny to be sitting there singing like a canary, we should really, that is predatory. That is not the justice system that we have designed. We as citizens should be able to face our crime, whatever it is, and be able to go against a jury of our peers for the crime that we had. And for Sidney Powell to be facing several felonies for saying what she thought about, whether you agreed with it or not, whether you thought that the election is stolen, it was, whether you agree with the election being stolen or not, she has the right to investigate it, because that is what she was put in place to do, and we should be thanking her. So I don't understand what it is. Even conservative, you guys, be careful what you do. Be careful what you're doing, because we're sitting up here attacking this like, oh, she must be guilty. She must be. That is a very naive perspective to say, oh, she must be guilty. You face that many felonies and your life is in these people's hands, and have them play around and say, oh, well, we can make the felonies disappear if you just do the misdemeanor and ruin your reputation. Like that, something should be done. And I really hope that 45 wins this election, that he can literally get rid of all of this foolishness that we call normal. This woman is saying this on TV.
Yep.
She's saying it on TV.
It's interesting. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So firstly, Trump has distanced himself from her. He came out and responded saying that, she was not his attorney. Let's talk about Sidney Powell. You mentioned money. Now, she raised a lot of money off of these things that she said throughout the election. After the election, Ms. Powell generated a significant number of headlines for, stating these things. She not only got sued, Fox News got sued for putting her up on this pedestal. Again, if there was some evidence, she was talking about the Kraken, released the Kraken. If there was evidence that the election was stolen, that the Dominion machines, the voting machines, which she mentioned, were putting out some incorrect algorithm, why wouldn't Fox bring that up in their case and not have to pay $750 million?
This is where you talking about conservatives are naive. Conservatives are naive about the legal process, because when you make settlements, when you make some parts of settlements, if not the whole thing, they can be kept under whatever. You can't disclose anything. There are all kinds of settlements. Again, I'm not saying that maybe some of those misdemeanors she pled guilty to them. Okay,
I'm
whatever.
not talking about her misdemeanors. I'm talking about the fact that she came out and made these broad statements about the voting machines. Even Tucker Carlson came out
and at that
said,
time
why
it was
didn't she
under
put the
legal
proof out?
auspices where she did not want to release whatever evidence she had to the public. That's part of the legal process. I don't know why when I put things on my page about conservatives, like laws are being broken, we break laws every day, but only conservatives seem to think that when somebody that they don't agree with, particularly around Trump, which is why I say TDS on both sides,
Go off.
which is why I say they think that because, okay, somebody from Trump is being prosecuted or pled guilty, so they must be guilty. I don't know all the details of what's. I don't know. No, most people on conservatives are only saying this because they don't agree with Trump.
That's not true at all.
This is a political witch hunt, and prosecutors have a lot of power to ruin people's lives.
Yes, and
any one of us, if in that position, will probably plead to a misdemeanor too to keep our asses out of jail
Just
and
to
to
go
be with our
home.
family. Exactly. I don't know why that's such a big concept to understand.
But let me address what you're saying.
It's not a concept that I'm not saying it's not a concept that I don't understand. The issue here is before she was even prosecuted, she was peddling these ideas and this information, and she never backed it up. Conservatives generally, or they used to be, I don't know what's going on now, used to be about facts. So you make these statements, you make these grand, accusations, but you provide the facts. The left was the ones who were always out here saying things, do this, do that, and never provided facts.
She didn't bring it to the public.
She didn't provide one fact, and Tucker Carlson asked her to come on the show.
She said no.
To come on.
So what? She said no. So what? You don't have to go. You don't have to go on Tucker Carlson. She went on there and said she's gonna bring the crack in.
What she said was, she was scheduled to come on the show. Then when his producers asked her to provide the facts, which most podcasts, most shows ask you to do, provide what you're going to state, she declined and didn't come on the show.
So what? You don't have to go on Tucker Carlson's show, and I like Tucker Carlson.
Exactly. And this is what I've said. With conservatives with this mindset, then you might as well, you know better than the Democrats. First of all, I don't know what happened to the facts.
Exactly.
But every single one of us know that sleepy man did not get that many votes. He did not. And so for us to be saying to her, people that are supposed to be on our side, where's the facts? Where's the facts? Where's the facts? They would have slit her damn throat if she came out with them facts.
This is a political witch hunt.
Yes, why do we not understand and that this is a dangerous game? Let me tell you.
Yeah, it is dangerous when you just go off of just generalizations and don't have supporting facts.
Baltimore ain't hood the way DC is hood. Okay? DC is the true thugs and gangsters. And let me tell you something. I would not be surprised if she had it and it disappeared.
I wouldn't either.
I'm not surprised if she had it and they said, I'm going to kill you, and then turn around and prosecute her. I'm not taking anything off the line. And Tucker Carlson, you are dead wrong, because all conservatives got to do is say nothing. Say nothing. Just be quiet. It doesn't matter. Like, why are you killing and shooting your own wounded?
I just want, if I could say this, you're talking about gangsters. She's gangster.
Who?
After
Sidney
the election,
Powell?
yes.
Okay.
Sidney Powell generated between December 1st, 2020 and November 30th, 2021. This gangster raised more than $14 million off of these accusations, off of all these news conferences that she was doing, talking about releasing the cracker. I got it from Fox News, honey child.
Got it from
$14 million via her nonprofit, Defending the Republic. The organization spent about $8 million, including $3.8 million in legal fees and $2 million on other expenses, according to reports.
Prosecuting the Trump case, right? Basically during this time.
This was before all of that. Yeah, she's just
she's getting all. Yeah, during that time period.
I mean, to me, the woman was a grifter. This was a grift. This was a grift.
I just saw the movie.
She was a booster. She was a high-class booster that's being New York City boosting fake Louis Vuitton.
Only because she was supporting Trump, right?
No, that's not about supporting
I just
Trump.
saw the movie Police
He
State.
even denounced her. What are you talking
We know
about?
that he does stuff like that. I'm not excusing him.
I do
I'm not
believe-
excusing him.
No, y'all
I'm
don't
not excusing
understand.
him.
Like, let me tell you something. When you're friends, and I believe this with all my heart. Like, if something is better for your friend, you will separate yourself. That's what I'm saying. We are not privy to these conversations.
There are all kinds of legal
we have
maneuvers.
to assume positive intent if we are on their side. This is called loyalty, and the Democrats or the Democrats, they get it. Why can't conservatives understand that? Just be quiet and understand that this is bigger than us. What do you want them to say? Yeah, we stole your election. They're not going to say that. It's guilty. You're guilty of treason. They're not going to say that. We know something was not right. And so we just have to be able to protect our own. I don't know why he said, hey, you know what? I got to separate her. They probably was on the phone saying, okay, I got to plead guilty. We know how these things go in the background.
Look, I just
trust
saw
your
the
leaders
movie.
or just go be Democrat.
I just saw the movie Police State on Monday, put out by Dinesh D'Souza. And it was riveting. It was a stunning movie. And this is what, like you were talking about the naivete of conservatives.
Yes.
We don't understand how the prosecutors can stack up the case against you. When they can bulldoze into your house, or whatever you call it, batter and ram into your house, take all the quote unquote evidence only to benefit themselves, don't disclose it over to the other side to defend you. They make you guilty. You have to prove you're innocent, or you're supposed to be innocent before guilty, but no, they make you guilty, and then you have to hem and haw and scratch to prove your innocence. Your reputation is gone. You have really no recourse, no access. Your family and your community has been brutalized and traumatized. Again, I'm not saying that every prosecutor is wrong and does not go after the right path.
You guys sound like Democrats to me.
No,
This is
I'm
Democrat
saying, no,
playbook.
I'm saying this in
Democrats
reference to
for
Trump.
many years
In reference
have
to
said
Trump.
that the laws are against us. The system is rigged.
They have been telling us
How
that,
police
yeah.
are corrupt.
Some of them are.
You said
Oh, so I think some of them are. Yeah, I do. I
so
agree.
the justice system is against us. Police are crooked. The elections are rigged. This is all Democrat talking points. This is what they have said for many, many years. Everyone is
And they
against
weren't
us.
prosecuted for it either.
Well, this is what I'm just telling you. This is
When
what
they
they
said
said.
election back in 2000, when Bush won, Bush Gore, they cried like pissy, stinky
I
babies.
agree, but I'm just saying,
they
you
weren't
guys are saying
prosecuted.
it's going along the same way.
Nobody raided their homes and traumatized their children and
I
took them
agree,
to court and
I
had
agree.
case and indict. Nobody did that. Only I'm talking about in the context of Trump. Again, this is why I say Trump derangement syndrome on both sides, because the conservatives that don't like Trump, they want him to lose, and he's crazy. Yeah, I think Trump has said a lot of things. Some things I don't agree with. But anything that goes against Trump, even for some conservatives, y'all, conservatives will be like, yes, they're guilty automatically because they did whatever. This is bull. This is nothing but Trump derangement syndrome, a political witch hunt. And you have some conservatives, again, like Crystal said, who are even supporting our own government, framing and incarcerating, prosecuting our citizens for their legal rights. They're stacking the case against
the conservative people who the never Trumpers or what have you are only a small fraction of the conservative movement, you still have a large amount of people who are trying to look at this through a lens of reason, through a lens.
But you all won't consider the reason that the prosecutors can be corrupt.
Exactly.
You don't consider that part.
Consider the reason. Consider the possibility that somebody was a trusted advisor and been attorney for so long, let's say over 20 years, and she had a good reputation, and there was a reason that she was in the White House. Now, all of a sudden, y'all want to call her crazy?
Well,
that's weird,
but,
y'all.
But listen,
y'all don't think
you
that
do
that's
understand that same thing has happened to multiple people that were in the Trump White House.
Bingo.
Right. So
that shit, some stuff is going on. If it's happened to more than one, it wasn't just a one-off.
All of these people just crazy.
Exactly.
Trump's
all
crazy.
of a sudden they crazy.
He was gifted. He was wonderful. He was the golden boy. He was picked to
crazy.
be president. Oh, now
it wasn't
he's
just
crazy.
a one-off.
Then Giuliani, America's mayor. He saved America. He's crazy too. Sidney Powell, crazy. Everybody's crazy. No, they're crazy.
All right, we have to end it on that. We'll end it on that. Again, as you can see, we did get a little heated on tonight.
Somebody said don't fuss. We're not fussing. We're just having a good debate.
Yeah.
We about to scrap.
They about to get beat up.
Well, y'all know I don't scrap. Y'all know what I do, but go ahead.
Anyway, I do want to acknowledge a super chatter here tonight. We have a super chatter, Matthew Jenkins. Thank you so much, Matthew.
That's my boo, y'all.
Yes, that's her husband.
We got Chadwick.
Okay. All right, and then we have Chadwick is another super chatter. You ladies are great, do great work. Thank you so much. Again, continue the super chatters. We do certainly appreciate the support. We work hard to bring you guys this trending news and topics from a conservative perspective. As you can see, we range across the conservative perspective, but we do try to provide you with great news and information. So please continue to support. We certainly appreciate it. All right, so this gets us to the end of the night tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Again, continue the conversation by checking us out here on YouTube. Comment, and if you have not done so already, certainly subscribe. Share this broadcast with your family, with your friends. Maybe you have some friends that are not conservative, and this broadcast would make them second guess themselves. Certainly share it with them, and again, tell them to subscribe. Again, we are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, live your purpose and count your blessings. Good night.
Good night.